Give me the loop, give me the loop. 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 Give me the loop, give me the loop.
I'm a bad boy.
Welcome back.
Okay. Loop question for the day. Can you choose who you fall in love with? How's up?
No. No.
Why not?
Listen here, yo. Love. There's a lot of things that have to do with your mind, have to do with your frontal lobe, and a lot of logic, right? You make these reasons why things happen, and you come up with conclusions that make sense to you, right? Love is like God. It's something you cannot box in with your frontal lobe or any sort of logic or any sort of cause and effect type things. This things is outside of that. It's outside of your decision making. This is outside of anything that you can put into a logical framework, right? So because that's the case, the only place that we have any decision making in is our logic, is our frontal lobe, is anything that we can make any sort of sense of. And since God and love are outside of our sense, there's no way for us to have any control over it. We can only tap into it and commune with it if we're honest. And love, in that case, comes from the fucking heart, and the heart is outside of my control. I fall in love with whoever the fuck I fall in love with, and it's been very rare. That's why I've been single for a long time. I have a lot of love for a lot of people, and I love people, but that romantic type of like, holy shit, my fucking heart's gonna burst out of my fucking chest. That is rare, and I haven't felt it that much. And so because that's the case, I haven't been with nobody. It's been a long time. And so I cannot decide that. A lot of us, what does end up happening, which I'm gonna grant, is that a lot of us end up being with people for our whole lives, make families and make it work, and actually seems like we're happy. And in a lot of ways, we are happy. But we do that a lot with a lot of people that we're not actually in love with. We don't have this burning fire inside of our chest for. We just have no reason to not be with this person because they're beautiful people, both inside and out. They're awesome. And so everything in our logic, when we look at that person on paper, whether it's from their personality to their physical being, we look at them on paper and we're like, wow, well, logically it makes sense. There's nothing wrong with this person. They're fun. I have fun with them. They're kind people. They don't do nothing wrong to me, and I'm attracted to them. The sex is good. It's all fun. And so logically, it makes no sense to not be with this person, so we end up being with this person. And a lot of us make that happen. And we end up in these 40-year relationships with 3 kids, and it's fine. It works. But I feel like most of us don't end up with the person we're actually in love with because logically we convince ourselves that we love other people. And at some point, we do love this person, but the actual, like, in love, I'm fucking dying for this person, my chest is gonna burn. That shit we have no control over. And the only thing that we can do is to try to calm our fucking frontal lobe down and quiet our ego down to listen to that part of us that's like beyond that shit and like follow that. And I feel like that part we don't have any control over. All we can do is follow it if we quiet ourselves down enough. And that shit we have no control over. The only control over is like whether we listen to it or not. So that's what I got to say about that. You don't fucking choose who you fall in love with. That's something that's outside of your fucking control. And I have a lot of examples of that. I'm not going to put people on this podcast on blast about it, but my parents are a fucking tribute to that because their whole love story is outside of what they should have been doing, right? According to the family and all that stuff. And there's other people that like, they would have never guessed they're like in love with this person because they don't fit their logical on paper characteristic of what the person they would fall in love with is, but nonetheless they feel this fucking thing for, and that just brings me to the point that you don't fucking choose it. It's just something that you feel. I plead my case. I'm done.
So I agree that I don't think you choose who you fall in love with. I bar that. But the question I have, and it's sort of a rebuttal, is like, okay, then if you don't feel this burning desire off the rip, then is that not love? Right? How many people have felt that burn, got in with someone and realized, oh, I'm not in love. Right? And so then it brings to question the fact that like, okay, if you can't choose who you fall in love with, then as soon as you feel that burning desire, it must be that you're falling in love with them. And then how come down the line you realize, oh, I'm not in love with this person. I was in love with something they did. I was in lust for something they brought to the relationship, right? So although I agree you can't choose who you fall in love with, I think there's a bit of a nuance there that kind of makes it, there is a little bit of recognition that you need to have. That and the fact that you do choose who you want to be.
With.
No, you.
Oh, that's.
You choose who you want to be, right? Many people reinvent themselves. Many people rebrand themselves. And so when you were in high school, who you would have fallen in love with is worlds apart from who you are today and who you would fall in love with today. And so by default, because you choose who you want to be and who you are willing to allow yourself to be.
Good. That's good.
Thank you, bro. I'm here for this is the loop, bro. I came
Cheers,
here
bro.
to play. I came here to play. By default, because you're able to choose who you are, then you can by default choose who you want to fall in love with. Not because you say, I'm going to fall. Now, I'm not saying you say, I'm going to fall in love with this person. No, never the case. Come on. Things of the ethereal, things of the heart are far from being able to define. You can't quantify that. I agree with that. There is something existential about it. What I'm saying is you get to choose what you're into. You get to choose. These are the things that are, how many times, let me ask you this question as a rebuttal and then I'll let you take the time. How many times have you decided, you know what? This is what I'm into. A couple years down the line, you say, I'm not actually that into that. I thought I was into that. How many times would you say that happened?
That's happened many times. But another thing that's also happened is like, I've tried to tell myself, I'm not into that. But some, like, let's say, like,
Sure.
let's say I can't think of an album right now or some shit like that. But there's been times, and you just take my word for it. I can't tell you one off the top of my head. But there's been times I'm like, I'm not into that music anymore. I told myself that. But somehow every time I put it on or every time it came on, I couldn't help myself but be like, fuck, I love this right here. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, I told myself I wasn't that person anymore, or that didn't reflect like what I was into anymore. But somehow like Jedi Mind Tricks, let's just put that. Jedi Mind Tricks, if you haven't listened to this fucking rap group, it's Vinny Paz and I forget what the producer's name is, and another rapper, which I don't really fuck with that other rapper, but Vinny Paz is hot as fuck. Anyways, they make, a lot of what they make is really violent, so I don't like violent music overall.
Right.
But there's something about their sound and the way Vinny raps that I fuck with, even if he says some shit that's so outside of my moral bounds, right? So I've told myself for years that I don't fuck. There's been times where I've told myself I don't fuck with that type of music. But if you put on Jedi Mind Tricks, bro, there's something about my soul that can't help it, dog. I'm like, fuck, I like this right now. Like, I can tell you verbally, like, no, this ain't the business. But inside, I'm really rocking with it. I actually enjoy it. So I feel like we do reinvent ourselves, and there's actually a lot of ways in which we do evolve and change the people we are. But the things that we feel our hearts about, the people we fall in love with, and that brings us to another question, which I think we're breaking all the rules of the loop.
Yeah, well, fuck Tony's question.
But there's times where we fall in love with a person that we shouldn't be with, dog.
Right.
Because I feel like when the crux question is like, the person that you end up with, do you choose that person? And if you choose that person, is it the person that you are in love with? And I think most of the time we choose the person we're not in love with. And sometimes we are in love with that person and we choose them and it wasn't the right one, because I feel like, and I don't know if I'll ever achieve this, but I feel like the right person for you is the person that you are in love with, the part that you didn't have any choice of. Your heart just fucking felt that. You feel that, and then there's enough on paper things, there's enough like characteristic things about them, like, right, they're kind and what they're open-minded and whatever your criteria is. Whatever criteria it is for you. There's enough of those things, and there's the thing you had no choice over. And when you make that right decision where it's like they checked off enough of the boxes and you have that shit with them that you didn't make any choice over, that's the one for you.
Sure.
And that shit is hard as fuck.
And
I don't know.
I think you kind of make my case a little bit.
I think we do. This fucking loop is this is a trap, bro, because you guys are not going to get a winner out of this.
And we don't disagree that much.
We don't really.
But here's the issue with what Ulysses said, right? And it's twofold. One, then if you don't feel that burning sensation, I think I asked this question, I might be repeating myself, but you haven't answered it. Then what happens when you don't feel that? How many times do you think someone meets someone they could fall in love with, but the situation wasn't right. You didn't
Right
spend
away,
enough
you're
time
saying?
with them. Right? A big part of love is spending time with somebody, right? How can I know I'm in love with you when I haven't spent the time to understand you, right?
For sure, for
Right?
sure.
You
for
fall
sure.
in love with somebody's mind. In order to fall in love with someone's mind, you have to spend time with them. You have to make the decision to say, this person has potential, right? And so you make the case for yourself of like, well, I'm not in love yet. But to me, the problem with what you're saying, and this isn't a knock on you, but to speak to your
Point.
utopian world of where this just happens every time is to me it's illogical, right? To say like, oh, it has to blow me away
It is illogical.
of the rep. No, and I understand love is illogical, of course. But what I'm saying is, then when you make the decision, you say, you know what, I see a lot of potential in this person. Yeah, they don't check all these boxes on the list, but they check this one. And I've decided that this one happens to outweigh every other one.
It's worth my while.
Every other one. And sometimes you find someone who you're like, man, I'm really into this person. Like my soul calls for that person, but they do all these things that I can't possibly live my life with. And so, yeah, you may have a strong appeal to them, but you decide, you know what, that's not worth it for me though, because where my life will go is going to lead me to unhappiness, whether I'm in love or not.
Yeah.
Which at the end of the day is subjective and it's fleeting and it's kind of liquid and fluid in a way where like, I'm in love today, I'm not that in love tomorrow. I really fuck with you today, I don't fuck with you that much. What you just said to me fucking turned me off, right? Like the way even the dating pool, the way you attract the dating pool is awkward because this person sends you the wrong text one time and you're like, oh, that was kind of weird, you know? And so that's why I say like there is a part of it that is a decision, right? There's a part of you that either they did something that turned you off and you're willing to overlook that. It's a choice. You made the choice to overlook that. And now that opened the door to something that like, whoa, I fell in love with you and I didn't even realize I fell in love with you. Or you meet someone that fucking blows you off your fucking rocker and you're like, oh shit, I didn't even realize that this was what I was into. And we know what, I fuck with that now. That is who I want to be. That is something I'm willing to accept as a possibility for my life. And so now you've chosen to allow yourself to be that person, and you've allowed yourself to fall in love with people who are of that kin. Go one more time.
Well, I think you make great points there. And what I think is that the part that you do have choice in is that sometimes and I don't think you fall in love with people right away all the time. I do think that like sometimes it does take some time.
But isn't it a choice to persist?
Yeah. But let's say you're like, all right, there's enough here for me to make a choice to spend more time with a person. Just because you made the choice to spend more time with a person doesn't mean you made the choice to fall in love with them. You chose to open the door for the possibility of you falling in love with them. And that falling in love is actually outside of your choice.
Fair.
So,
but it's not a whimsical thing.
It's not a whimsical thing. It's not a whimsical thing.
That's what I'm trying to, that's where I think,
there are times where you're like, well, I don't know yet. But like, there's something that piques me here. Let me spend some more time. And through the time spending, before you know it, you're in this place where there was no choice and you just like, holy fucking shit balls.
Fine.
I'm in love with this person. Like, and so,
yes.
So the falling in love, you actually falling in love is outside of your choice. But sometimes the process,
the question is fucked.
But sometimes the process of you falling in love is actually within your choice. Because if you didn't open the door for that person to come in, you would have never fallen in love.
But respect the process though. Because at the end of the day, without a process, there's no falling in love. If you don't go through the process, which is a choice, there's plenty of people who are meant for you or meant for you. I put it in quotes because like, what the fuck does that mean? But plenty of people who are like, oh yeah, this person checks a lot of boxes for me. But they have this defect that I'm not willing to live with for the rest of my life. I choose not to. So I guess the other question is, do you think you could fall in love with a lot of people throughout your lifetime?
Here's another thing. Yeah, because a lot of people have told me like, well, do you think there's the one for you or there's your person in the world? And I feel from the bottom of my heart that there are those in the world that are out there that are your persons. Mm-hmm. Emphasis on the sons, persons. I believe that there's more than one. And
yes.
And the thing that makes them happen is that the one that makes the one is because that person lined up at the right time and you met them. Because I feel like there's people walking the earth right now. There's more than one person out in the world that I would fall in love with and that would work with me. But for whatever reason, sometimes I don't. Maybe let's say there's 10. Maybe 8 of them, maybe 6 of them I don't never cross their paths. 4 of them I do, but 2 of them are in the wrong time. Right, so our timelines don't line up. They're already like
in a relationship.
We're in a different, like where I'm at mentally is not the same place that they're at mentally. And then there's this one that like, she's one of the 10 she's one of the 10 persons in my life that are for me or that I'm for them. And everything lined up in the right way for me to be with them. So, and I feel like, and this is probably controversial and whatever, but I feel like you can be in love, you can find the person for you, love them at the right time, be with them, and still be in love with somebody else. Exactly. And that doesn't mean that you're gonna cheat on the person that you're with because you found one of your persons. Like that's it. I'm fucking in. If I find one of my persons that I'm in it, and we lined it up, I'm fucking in it. But there's also a possibility that you run into another one of your persons and you're like, holy shit, like maybe in another time this would have worked, but I'm so happy
And there another space, you would be mine.
Shout out to Sir. And real shit, I feel like that's true. And because the reason that's true is because there is one more person for you. But it's just it's a question of patience and timing for you to end up with one of your persons. And for you not to fuck up your relationship with one of your persons, you can't fucking have that person and then fuck around with one of your other persons because...
See, this is where I think the choice comes in. And this is why I'm saying that, like...
But you don't choose. You didn't choose that you fall in love with both. You fall in love with both regardless of choice.
Upon rip.
You chose to make it work.
Granted that on rip, we're no longer arguing the question if you choose. I agree. You don't choose it. Yeah, Next thing you know, you're in this wormhole and you realize, I love this person. I can't bear to live without him. But the beauty is, I do agree that there's probably more than one person meant for you, dog.
100%.
Of course. And you know why that has to be the case? Because you fall in love with someone. The person that you fall in love with thinks they fall in love with you, realize they didn't really fall in love with you, and they do something that ruins the relationship. Does that mean now you're asked out because there's only one person for you? Of course not.
No, bro.
There's another person in there that is going to do better by you, and they're going to be everything that the other person was, but now maybe that they're just more considerate of your feelings. Right? And so you had to make the choice to say, that is no longer good for me as much as I feel in love. The other thing is, love is very fleeting at times, right? You can feel love in one direction. Shout out to Harry Styles. And you can feel love in another way, right? And so the truth is...
love better on paper or in theory? Is love paper on paper or in theory?
This is another discussion, Ulysses, I had where I think we probably disagree less. But
that's a bigger one, though.
Love is much better in theory than it is on paper. Because there's a lot of people who can check off a lot of boxes and be everything you should be in love with and you should want to be with. But the person in theory that you want to be in love with is a person who makes you feel a type of way. And this is where I think you and I can converge.
But here's the area where I say that that's not love, though. Because
what's not love? What's not love? Clarify.
Love is not the person that you feel you should be in love with. It's not, because...
Yes, I agree.
Because that is a conclusion made by your logic, which I'm saying from the jump, love has nothing to do with. So, because whether you think of it or not, whether you think you should be with this person or not, or whether this person is fit for your love or not, that's not the fucking question. So, that's why I feel like it...
Yeah, but then...
You understand what I'm saying?
No, I understand. I agree with you. I agree. On paper, what's on paper matters nothing.
It doesn't, as far as like your love goes.
Fair enough.
Who you end up
with. But then the question, the way the question is posed and the way you're answering makes it seem as if then you can only fall in love one time.
No, you can fall in love several times.
And that's why I think you can choose. Because if you can fall in love more than...
How many times can you fall in love?
I don't know.
Endless, boundless. The world has infinite options, right? I'm living in a parallel universe to something else. 100%, I agree.
And the world is...
So then you chose who you fell in love with.
To a degree.
No.
Feelings.
You fall in love with many people. You choose who you're gonna be with. But you can.
I can agree with that.
But you fall in love with everyone you can fall in love with. That's not outside. That's outside of your choice. You're going to fall in love with whoever you can fall in love with.
Then that changes the question. then that changes.
No,
the statement.
the question is like, the question is, do you choose who you fall in love with? No.
Yeah, but then
You choose who you be with.
How many people fall in love with everybody they meet? There's plenty of people that like fall in love with everybody.
That's fine, but
Then, but then
That's true, but
then
then-
falling in love isn't really the criteria. Then
No,
it's,
it is.
It's out of all the people you fell in love with, who did you choose to be with? Fine, let's say you fell in love with let's take your.
that's a different question.
I know that's what I'm trying to say. That changes the question. What you said. Thank you. This is too easy now.
The fuck? I feel like I'm winning this shit easy right now.
We agree on.
We agree. We're not.
If this was Tony, I'd be just really going at it. But I just happen to love Waleed too. I'm in love with Ulysses.
Yeah, see, this was not a choice.
This is not a choice.
If I could choose anybody, I would choose Jeremy. Bro. I fucking love. I'm in love
Really?
with Angelo right now.
Wow, you're a vain motherfucker.
Cheers, how's up?
Cheers.
What's up, motherfucker?
Love and be loved.
Like, what do y'all think? Tell us.
Fuck it.
Give me the loop. 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 Give me the loop.